That morning, everything was perfectly lined up for the biggest deal of my life. A $100 million merger that would place Waseem Holdings among the top global corporations. Every slide in my presentation was flawless, every investor briefed, every minute accounted for. I had built my empire on logic, precision, and timing. Nothing ever went wrong when I was in control, or so I thought. Before the meeting, I decided to stop by the hotel's restaurant for a quick cup of coffee. My quiet ritual before every major deal. The place was elegant, buzzing softly with the polite hum of business conversations and clinking glasses. That's when I noticed her, a new waitress, young, graceful, but clearly nervous. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her notepad, and her brown eyes kept darting toward the window, as if expecting something or someone. "Good morning." "Sir," she said politely. "Good morning," I replied, barely glancing up. "Just a black coffee." "No sugar," she nodded, scribbled it down, and hurried away. I went back to scanning through my notes, thinking about the investors waiting upstairs. But when she returned, something was different. She didn't place the cup immediately. Instead, she leaned forward, close enough that I could hear her whisper over the faint jazz music playing in the background. "Sir," she said softly. "You have to leave. Now." I froze, my pen hovering above the contract papers. "Excuse me?" I asked, frowning. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were dead serious. "Please, sir. Just trust me. You need to leave. Right now." At first I thought it was a prank. Or maybe some kind of confusion. "Listen, miss," I began, irritated. "I'm about to sign a deal worth more than your entire restaurant. I'm not leaving because a waitress told me to." But her eyes, they weren't panicked or hysterical. They were full of fear, but not for herself. It was for me. "Sir, I don't know who you are," she whispered urgently, "but if you stay here, something terrible will happen. Please, just trust me. For a man who believed in logic, it made no sense, and yet..." There was something about her tone, her trembling hands, her desperate eyes that pierced through my walls. "What's your name?" I asked quietly. "Mahnoor," she said, glancing toward the door. "Please, we don't have time." I hesitated, $100 million on one side, and a stranger's warning on the other. But something deep inside me whispered, "Go." "All right," I said finally, pushing back my chair. But if this turns out to be some kind of game... She didn't let me finish. She grabbed my wrist gently and said, "It's not a game, sir. It's survival." We had just stepped out of the restaurant doors when a deafening explosion ripped through the air. The glass windows shattered. Screams filled the corridor. The ground shook beneath us. I turned back in horror. The same dining hall where I'd been sitting seconds ago was engulfed in flames and smoke. Mahnoor looked at me, her face pale but her eyes steady. "I told you," she whispered, tears glistening on her cheeks. "Sometimes, instinct saves more than logic ever can." And in that instant I realized she had just saved my life. The sirens came first, piercing, urgent, cutting through the smoke-filled air. People were screaming, running out of the restaurant, some covered in dust and glass. I stood frozen, my mind refusing to process what had just happened. If Mahnoor hadn't stopped me, if I had ignored her, that single thought hit me like a storm. She stood beside me, shaken but eerily composed, as if she had seen something like this before. Her eyes stayed fixed on the burning restaurant, but her lips moved in a silent prayer. I finally turned to her. "How did you know?" I asked, my voice low but trembling. "How did you know that was going to happen?" She looked at me, her eyes wet but steady. "I can't explain it here," she whispered. "We need to move. There could be more." She grabbed my sleeve and pulled me toward the service exit. I followed, partly in shock, partly out of an inexplicable trust that had formed in just minutes. Outside, the chaos faded into distant shouts. Fire trucks arrived. The hotel staff gathered, crying and panicking. And yet, Mahnoor just stood there, breathing hard, her hands shaking. "Mahnoor," I said, this time more firmly. "You saved my life. I need to know how." She hesitated, biting her lip, glancing around as if afraid someone might be listening. Then she spoke quietly, each word trembling. "My brother used to work here," she said. "In the kitchen. 2 months ago there was an accident." "An accident?" Her eyes darkened. "No, It was covered up as one. But he told me something before he died. That someone was smuggling chemicals through this hotel, hidden in the supply crates. He said one day it might end badly. I didn't believe him. She paused, swallowing hard. Until this morning, I stared at her, my heart pounding. You saw something, she nodded. A delivery man came through the back door earlier. He wasn't one of ours. I noticed because he dropped a crate marked with the wrong supplier name. When I asked him about it, he just glared at me. Then left in a hurry. And when I went to the kitchen, I smelled something strange, like burning plastic. I knew I didn't have time to explain to anyone, so I came straight to you. To me? I asked, confused. Her eyes flickered with guilt. You were sitting closest to where the crate was placed. I thought, if it explodes, you'll be the first to... She stopped herself. Her voice cracked. I took a deep breath. For years, I'd sat across from liars, investors, competitors, even friends, but I knew truth when I heard it. And every word she said was real. Still, something didn't add up. You risked your job and your life. To warn a stranger? Her eyes softened. My brother died because no one listened. I wasn't going to make that mistake again. For a moment, silence hung between us, heavy, fragile, filled with unspoken gratitude. Then my phone buzzed. It was my assistant, frantic. Sir, are you okay? The board members are looking for you. The entire hotel wing is under lockdown. They say it might have been targeted. Targeted? I glanced at Mahnoor. She frowned. What does he mean, targeted? I don't know, I said slowly. But that meeting was supposed to involve executives from 3 rival firms. If this wasn't an accident... Her face paled. You think someone meant to kill us? I finished her sentence. The words hung in the air like smoke. She looked terrified now, not for herself, but for me. And somehow I felt the same for her. Come with me, I said suddenly. What? Where? To my office. If what you're saying is true, then someone just tried to sabotage $100 million deal. And maybe frame me for it. She hesitated, clutching her apron. Sir, I'm just a waitress. Not anymore, I said quietly. From this moment, you're someone I trust. Her eyes widened in disbelief, but before she could reply, a group of security officers ran past us, shouting into their radios. One of them turned toward us and yelled, Sir, are you Waseem Khan? Yes? Then you need to come with us now. Someone's asking questions about you, and it doesn't look good. Mahnoor and I exchanged a tense look. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. They led me to a secured hallway inside the hotel, or at least that's what I thought. But within minutes, the situation twisted into something darker. The officers didn't take me to the security room. They led me to a small conference area, where a tall man in a gray suit was waiting. His posture screamed authority, but his eyes were cold. Mr. Waseem Khan, he said, flipping open a folder. CEO of Waseem Holdings. You were in the restaurant at approximately 9:35 a.m., just minutes before the explosion. Yes, I said cautiously. But I left before it happened. He raised an eyebrow. Left or fled? My jaw tightened. Are you suggesting I had something to do with it? He didn't answer. Instead, he slid a photo across the table. It showed me, standing near the kitchen doors, talking to the same delivery man Mahnoor had mentioned. I froze. That's impossible, I muttered. I never met that man. The investigator leaned forward. This was taken from the hotel's surveillance footage 15 minutes before the blast. I turned to Mahnoor, who looked just as shocked as I was. That's not true, she said quickly. He was with me the whole time. He never went to the kitchen. The officer's cold smile didn't fade. Funny, because the camera footage says otherwise. And that delivery man? He's missing. A heavy silence filled the room. It felt like the air itself was squeezing my chest. My entire life, my reputation, my company, my future, could collapse under a single false image. Someone's framing me, I said quietly. He closed the folder. Maybe, or maybe you're trying to divert attention. Until we verify you're not leaving the city. That was it. $100 million deal. Gone. Years of building my name. Shattered. And in the middle of it all, a young waitress who should have never been part of this mess. When they finally let us go, the sun was setting. Mahnoor walked beside me in silence, her apron still stained with smoke and ash. I'm sorry, she whispered. If I hadn't stopped you, I cut her off gently. Don't ever say that. You saved my life, Mahnoor, and whoever planted that footage, they would have found another way to ruin me. She looked up at me. Then we have to find out who did this. Her determination surprised me. She wasn't afraid anymore, just angry. Why are you helping me? I asked after a moment. You've already done enough. She hesitated. Because this isn't just about you, sir. If someone's using this hotel for something illegal, my brother might have died trying to stop them. Her words struck deep. The same fire that drove me to build my empire. That hunger for truth, for control. I saw it in her eyes now. I sighed. Then we find the truth, together. That night I drove her to my office, a high-rise overlooking the city, where the skyline shimmered like glass after rain. The security team was gone, the lights dim. My assistant had sent me the data from the hotel cameras. As I played the footage, my heart sank. There I was, or someone who looked exactly like me, walking through the kitchen door, shaking hands with the delivery man. But something was wrong. The frame glitched for half a second. Then I noticed it. The timestamp was edited. Someone tampered with the footage, Mahnoor said, leaning closer. That's not a camera error. That's a digital overlay. She was right. Whoever set this up wasn't some street criminal. This was professional. Who would go this far? I murmured. And then it hit me. A name. Zamir Siddiqui, my former business partner. The man I had forced out of Waseem Holdings 2 years ago after uncovering his money laundering scheme. Mahnoor noticed the change in my face. Who is it? Someone I thought I buried in the past, I said grimly. And now he's trying to bury me. She crossed her arms. Then we hit back. But we need proof, and real proof, I smiled faintly. For someone who claimed to be a waitress, she had more courage than most board members I'd ever met. All right, I said, standing up. We'll find it. Tomorrow we go back to that hotel, and we start where your brother left off, Mahnoor nodded. Whatever happens next, I'm not running away. Neither was I. Because for the first time, this wasn't just about saving a company. It was about uncovering a truth worth more than $100 million. The hotel looked different at night. The same grand lobby that had once been full of laughter and elegance now echoed with silence and police tape. The chandelier lights flickered dimly, and the faint scent of smoke still hung in the air. Mahnoor stood beside me, her eyes scanning every corridor as if she could still feel the fear of that morning. She had changed out of her uniform, now wearing a simple gray hoodie and jeans. But even like this, she carried herself with quiet strength. We slipped past the caution tape when the guards were distracted. I had arranged access through a contact in the security department. An old favor returned. Are you sure this is safe? She whispered. I glanced at her. No, but neither is staying silent. We entered through the service hallway, the same path she had dragged me through hours before the explosion. The walls were cracked, burnt, and covered with black soot. Mahnoor led the way. The crate was kept in the back storeroom near the freezer area. The air grew colder as we went deeper. The hum of the industrial freezers buzzed like low thunder. When we reached the storeroom, the metal door was half torn off, the shelves overturned. Boxes were scattered everywhere, labels burnt off. But something caught my eye. A small area on the wall that looked cleaner than the rest, Mahnoor, I said, stepping closer. Does this wall look newer to you? She nodded. Yeah, I don't remember seeing it before. I pressed against it, and the panel shifted slightly. Hollow, hidden door. I pulled it open carefully, and behind it was a small, unlit room filled with documents, computer parts, and security footage drives. Mahnoor gasped. This is my brother's handwriting. She rushed forward, picking up a half-burned notebook. The first page read in bold letters, "If something happens to me, this is proof." Her voice trembled as she read through it. He found out the hotel was being used as a drop point for illegal shipments. He warned management, but they silenced him. He tried to collect evidence. I looked through the files, photos, USB drives, and bank logs showing massive payments from offshore accounts. Every file connected back to one name, Zamir Siddiqui. My stomach tightened. He used this place as a front. He's been cleaning dirty money through the hotel network, using deliveries as a cover. Mahnoor's eyes widened. That means my brother found out. And they killed him for it, her voice cracked. She held the notebook close to her chest, tears slipping down her face. I stepped closer, gently resting a hand on her shoulder. Mahnoor, I said softly, your brother didn't die in vain. He left us the truth. Now it's up to us to finish what he started. She wiped her tears and nodded, her face hardening with determination. Then we expose him, tonight. We gathered the files, the USB drives, and her brother's notes. But just as we were leaving the storeroom, a sharp click echoed behind us. We froze. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Well, well, a cold voice said. I was wondering when you'd come back. Waseem? It was Zamir. He stepped into the light, neat suit, smug grin, and 2 armed guards behind him. I should have known you'd dig your own grave, he said calmly. You never could resist playing hero, Mahnoor's eyes blazed. You killed my brother. Zamir laughed softly. Killed? No, my dear. He got in the way. There's a difference, my hands clenched. You destroyed my company's name, tried to frame me for a bombing, and murdered an innocent man. You won't get away with this, he smirked. You still think you're in control? Look around, Waseem. You're in my building, surrounded by my men, holding evidence no one will ever see. Wrong, I said quietly. You made one mistake, he tilted his head. And what's that? I pointed to the small black camera hidden behind a crate, the one I had activated through my phone minutes earlier. This entire conversation is being live-streamed to the police database. Every word, every face. Samir's smirk vanished. He lunged forward, shouting, Get them! Gunfire exploded through the corridor. Mahnoor screamed as I pulled her down behind the metal shelves. Bullets ricocheted off the walls. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. I grabbed the USB drive, shielding her with my body. Stay down! Then, sirens. Dozens of police officers stormed in through the back entrance, shouting orders. Zamir tried to run, but he didn't get far. The officers tackled him to the ground. Mahnoor covered her mouth, shaking as she watched him being handcuffed. One of the officers turned to me. Mr. Khan, we got your message. The feed came through loud and clear. I exhaled, finally letting go of the breath I'd been holding. Mahnoor looked up at me, tears in her eyes, this time not from fear, but relief. You did it, she whispered. No, I said softly, looking at her. We did. The next morning I walked into the hotel with a fire in my chest. The whispers had spread like wildfire. The new waitress ruined the CEO's deal. I could feel the eyes following me as I made my way to the lobby. Waseem stood near the elevator, his posture straight, his face unreadable. He looked like the kind of man born to command empires, but when his eyes met mine, there was something softer this time, a glimmer of respect, even gratitude. Mahnoor, he said quietly, motioning me to follow him to the terrace. I owe you an explanation. The city stretched below us, tall buildings glowing in the morning sun, the traffic humming like distant thunder. He placed his hands on the railing, staring out into the horizon. You were right, he finally said. The man I was about to sign with. He's under federal investigation. The email you saw, it wasn't a prank. It was a leak. If I had signed that deal, my company would have collapsed within a week. I froze, my heart racing. I didn't know. I just felt something was wrong. He turned toward me then, eyes glinting with emotion he rarely showed. You saved me from losing everything I've built over 15 years. You risked your job, your reputation, for a gut feeling. I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. I just did what I thought was right, sir. He smiled faintly. Don't call me sir. Not today. There was silence between us, the kind that didn't need words. Just the sound of the wind brushing past, carrying something fragile and beautiful between us. Then he said something that shook me. I want you to work for me directly, I blinked. Me? But I'm just a waitress, he finished, stepping closer. Yes, but the sharpest one I've ever met. You saw what no one else did. Not my analysts, not my lawyers. You trusted your instinct. That's what real leadership is. I looked down, stunned. Me? A girl who wiped tables and carried trays? He took a card from his pocket and handed it to me. My assistant will arrange everything. You'll start at my company next week. My fingers trembled as I held the card, Waseem & Co. Holdings. When I looked up again, his eyes held something deeper now, something human. "Mahnoor," he said softly. "Sometimes the right person walks into your life when you least expect it, even if she's carrying a tray of coffee instead of a briefcase." I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. "And sometimes the right man listens, even when the world tells him not to." He chuckled quietly, looking away for a moment. And I saw, perhaps for the first time, the loneliness behind his success. The man who built empires but had no one to share them with. A week later, I stood in front of Waseem and Cupboard Holdings, my heart pounding harder than ever before. The glass tower rose above the city like a monument to ambition, sleek, untouchable, intimidating. I had traded my Waitress apron for a simple cream blouse and navy skirt, clutching the security badge that bore my name, Mahnoor, executive assistant. The same man whose breakfast I once served now trusted me to stand by his side. Inside, I was greeted by murmurs and curious stares. The staff knew who I was. The waitress who stopped the deal. Some sneered, others whispered. But I held my head high, remembering his words. Real leadership is seeing what others ignore. When I entered his office, he was standing by the window, back to me, talking on the phone. His tone was sharp, all business. But when he turned and saw me, everything softened. "Mahnoor," he said, smiling. "You're right on time. Come here." He introduced me to his board, not as an assistant, but as the new consultant for ethical compliance. My knees almost gave out. I sat quietly through the meeting, taking notes, speaking only when he asked. Yet every time our eyes met, I could feel something unspoken, a connection that didn't belong in boardrooms or corporate halls. After the meeting ended, he lingered as everyone left. He walked over, hands in his pockets, his voice lower now. "You handled yourself well today," I smiled nervously, trying not to spill coffee this time. He laughed, that rare, quiet laugh that made him seem years younger. "You've done more than enough to make up for that." Silence stretched again, warm, steady, dangerous. "Do you ever miss the restaurant?" he asked. "Sometimes," I said softly. "It was simple there. People came, ate, left. No power games, no stakes." "And yet," he murmured, taking a step closer, "you belonged here all along." His words struck something deep inside me. I didn't know what to say, so I just looked at him, the man I had once feared to even speak to. He reached for his briefcase, then paused. "Mahnoor, about that night, when you told me to leave, do you know what scared me most?" I shook my head. "That you might have been right." He smiled faintly. "And you were." He took out a small velvet box and placed it on the desk. I was supposed to give this to the man I was signing with, a token for sealing the deal. But that deal was never meant to happen. He opened it. Inside was a delicate silver pendant shaped like a compass. "I had it remade," he said, "for someone who helped me find my direction again." Tears filled my eyes as I took it in my trembling hands. "Sir Waseem," I whispered. He looked at me for a long moment, then smiled. "I told you not to call me sir." The air between us changed, quiet, electric, alive. He didn't touch me, didn't need to. His eyes said everything. That gratitude had turned into respect. That respect had turned into something deeper, something he couldn't yet name. Outside the window, the city glowed golden in the sunset. It felt like the universe itself was pausing, watching us, two souls from different worlds, drawn together by one impossible moment of courage. And as I walked out of his office that evening, the pendant resting close to my heart, I realized something. That sometimes fate doesn't knock. Sometimes it whispers, "Sir, you have to leave now." And when you listen, it changes everything. The end.